Welcome to Season 3 of the Armchair Athletes on CMRU.ca.
We're here to talk the 4 major American sports leagues. Your favorite sports show on CMRU.ca, hosted by Terrell, Taylor, Clayton, and Will.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to a brand new episode of the Armchair Athletes with Clayton,
Terrell,
Taylor, Will,
and we've got recurring guest Truman Bartman on the StreamYard as well. Truman, how you doing today?
not too bad. Live out here from the Gas City, repping the Happy Dad.
The Gas City.
no promo. We don't have sponsors on this show, so get them out of here.
I'll have
At
Trevor
backwards.
Power, not my logo.
Yeah, it's the season finale today, Season 3 finale. We'll get back at it in a month. I'll still be posting TikToks and whatnot. Will has started, I think, a series that I think is going to be pretty fire. At least the first YouTube video was fire. We appreciate your support on that one, getting over 8,000 views last I checked, but that was Saturday. We might be up over 100K for all I know.
May as well be.
Rumor says 1 billion.
That'll be a fun little series, though. I was kind of just expecting for anybody who hasn't seen it, it's pretty much just a video of Avery Bradley with the caption, "Up late thinking about Celtics Avery Bradley." It was inspired by me up late thinking about Celtics Avery Bradley. So I'm thinking whenever one of the boys can't sleep and they're just tossing and turning, thinking about like Jan Mahinmi or somebody like that, they'll shoot me a text and I'll cook up a video and everybody out there will support it.
I think that's perfect time to run the gauntlet. It's been a while since I've done this, so I hope I'm not rusty, but TikTok at Armchair Athletes, Instagram at The Armchair Athletes, Twitter or X at Chair Athletes. Terrell, any highlights from the Twitter in the last month or two?
Most of my arguing comes from baseball, and I've been so tuned out of the Blue Jays that I haven't found the energy to do it. So no big news.
And then the last one, YouTube at the Armchair Athletes 196. 196, that's the amount of training camp brawls that there's been in the NFL so far. We'll be talking about that right away. One last thing I want to say as well. If you've noticed, we have been posting on the YouTube a bit more. So that's been a good thing as well. But I think we'll get right to the NFL. And, there was another thing I wanted to say before we get rolling here. So I told you guys this last month, or in July, not exactly a month ago, but in July, my dad went to an event, Street Wheelers, down in Lethbridge. It's a great event every year. Highly recommend going if you're a big car guy. And was repping the Armchair Athletes t-shirt down there. Someone actually stopped him and asked him where he got that, and that the guy listened to our show. So I just wanted to say thank you to whoever that is. Maybe message us on the Instagram or whatever, and maybe we'll get a shirt to you. Never know.
That's fire.
That is
I was just, that's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
But
we appreciate the support. So
one last thing before we get into everything, I feel like we should have promoted this a little more. For whatever reason, if you watch everything that we do and you haven't watched this yet, we got to interview Jay Jackson, I guess a couple weeks ago now. So if for whatever reason you haven't tuned in and watched that yet, I highly, highly recommend that you do. Unbiased. I think it was a great interview. I thought he was fantastic. Super nice. Answered all of our questions quite well. And yeah, I thought it was a great time. Clayton and I had a lot of fun.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun. Jay's a great dude. We'll be posting more clips from that interview probably this week and then maybe into next week as well. Been a little bit more busy than usual lately, so I've only posted I think the one clip from the interview, but we'll be posting a lot more this week, so keep an eye out on the socials. Go find the full interview, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. But I think it's time to get rolling with the NFL. And preseason football is back, boys. The Hall of Fame game, though, it got canceled in the third quarter. A little bit of a letdown there, but I mean, it's preseason football. It's not life or death. I don't know.
Maybe
Maybe it
football's
was.
always life or death.
Yeah,
If it's preseason, who cares, man? Doesn't matter. I'm out there
Football.
watching every second.
These guys are fighting for jobs out there. It's real for them.
Football is love. Football is life.
It's either Subway or the league, so you gotta.
That's what I'm saying.
Hey, there's some
yeah.
guys that should be at Subway and not in the league. We'll say that.
Yeah, that's true.
Who are you thinking of there, Truman?
Brock Purdy.
You're going to say that.
Come on.
But
Yeah.
I will say, so yeah, that game was between the Texans and the Bears. Colin Johnson was having a good game before the delay, made a couple of incredible catches, and I think he had a touchdown or two as well for the Bears.
Didn't he have three?
I think
he had three, didn't he?
Yeah, I think you might be right. He
Yeah.
was going off in that game. I think I should overreact and say that he's going to be the NFC Offensive Player of the Year.
Oh, absolutely. You always want to be high on things like that. You never want to be too low. If
Yeah.
you're too high on a player and you're wrong, no one really cares. But if you're like, this guy stinks and no one likes him, and then he's good, everyone's like, oh, old takes exposed, you suck.
Yeah.
You gotta get ahead of it.
People always say don't overreact to preseason hype or training camp hype. Why
Wrong.
not? What's it there for if not to overreact to?
Exactly.
Exactly.
Jalen Hurts went for 1,500 yards this season.
I completely agree. They dragged this thing for about 2 months before the start of the season. They dragged this thing out. Why not overreact to it?
I mean, yeah, looking at it now, Brett Ripien, 148.9 quarterback rating. MVP next season. That's what I'm looking at right there.
Look it.
I was gonna and then I guess we'll get into a bit more NFL news here. The Titans made a move, I believe it was today or yesterday. Quandre Diggs now signed to the Titans. Diggs now reunited with Jamal Adams. The dynamic duo has now taken over Tennessee. Terrell, your thoughts?
I could lie and say I didn't want the Seahawks to re-sign Quandre Diggs, but I won't. I think that is a much bigger get for them than Jamal Adams is. But I don't think Jamal Adams is probably going to see the field very much with how much we've seen from him the past few years. So maybe it won't matter. But yeah, I was really hoping that Seattle would bring Quandre back just because the safeties are still kind of questionable up there. But good get for Tennessee, I think. And yeah, they're back together, and who knows how much the field they'll see at the same time. But nothing but the best for those two.
I think the Titans are an interesting team going into the season. A lot of guys on the back end of their careers. But, I mean, with the way that the South is going into the season, I think the clear top team is the Texans. But I'm not sure how the next three are going to unfold. I think if the Colts get a monster year out of Anthony Richardson, I think they could end up finding their way maybe even into the playoffs this year. They had a good offense last year without him even. Jacksonville, I'm not high on going into the season. I'm sorry. I don't think that's a hot take.
We've learned our lesson.
The Titans, I'm not sure what to expect because we saw flashes of brilliance out of Will Levis last year, but the team for the majority of the season wasn't great. So unless you guys have any other thoughts on teams from the NFC South or there's another thing that I want to talk about right after as it relates to that news.
No, I think you're bang on. Again, I'm with you. I don't trust the Jags. And yeah, I feel like you can slot Houston in at that one pretty easily. I do think Colts take two, though.
Yeah. That's what I'm leaning right now, too. It's the 3-4. I'm not sure how it'll unfold. I guess it's not really a huge deal. But I do plan, and if you guys want to get in on this too, go ahead. Plan on releasing some NFL predictions on the socials before the season starts, some standings predictions. So,
yep, I'm good with that.
But the other thing I wanted to talk about, and I hinted about it right before, was Terrell. I don't know if we've talked about this on the show yet. I don't think we did. Jamal Adams was asked to move to linebacker by the Seahawks. That was a kind of a reason for his departure. What are your thoughts on that? Because I thought he was a better fit for him than safety last year.
Mm-hmm. I think that was like a pretty widely touted suggestion for him was moving him down to linebacker just because he wasn't the best in coverage. But the other thing is he would have been a very small linebacker. I don't know how much he weighs. I would guess it's probably no more than 220 pounds. So he would have been pretty undersized out there. And I think that for him, I just don't know how well it would have worked. But again, you would have just liked to see him out on the field whenever he could because he was talented when he was out there. But position for him, I don't think was the issue. I think it just was health. I think if he was at safety and playing, no one would have asked him to be moving to linebacker, but he just wasn't on the field at all.
Yeah. And then the other piece of news here, the receiver documentary got released earlier this month. Yes, it was documentary series, 8-part series. I enjoyed it. I thought it was really good. I actually liked it better than the quarterback series, I thought. Just because, now I don't know, the quarterback series, there was a couple of guys on it that I didn't really find as interesting. Whereas I thought it was just a different format where you've got best player in the league, Patrick Mahomes, or sorry, shall I say the fourth best player in the league? I guess maybe we could talk about that.
We can do that afterwards.
Kirk Cousins, kind of, I guess in the middle to upper tier quarterback.
Upper middle, sure.
Yeah, and then you've got Marcus Mariota, who was fighting for his job. But this one, you had 5 guys that are stars in the NFL. And I thought it was really entertaining. I thought one of the most entertaining ones on the show, and the one that I was surprised by, was Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Go ahead.
I feel like he was entertaining, but at the same point, I feel like if you know anything about the NFL, you know that he's a hardcore guy and that he's a competitive guy. And I kind of just think that's the only thing going on to him is just that he's uber competitive and wants to win.
I knew he was competitive. I knew the whole thing where he memorized all the receivers that went before him. But it gives you a whole new level of that competitiveness when you watch this documentary I found.
Mm-hmm. He has a podcast, does he not? I feel like I have clips. I have clips of him in his podcast. He always seemed entertaining when he was on that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I started watching the quarterback one, and I was just not a fan of it. And then I just haven't been back for the receiver one, and maybe I will. There just really isn't anyone on there that I'm I need to see more of this guy. It's kind of whatever. Maybe eventually one day I will, but I haven't gotten to it yet.
Justin Jefferson would surprise you, I'd say.
Okay.
He's a very different person off the field than he is on the field.
He's not grittying?
Yeah, well, he's thinking about grittying.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Unless Truman, did you watch that documentary at all?
I didn't know. I just haven't had time. So, yeah, it's been rough out here.
Is there any other news that you wanted to cover, Terrell, before we get into training camp a bit more?
Not that I can think of. I mean, they had the Hall of Fame induction ceremony. I don't remember who got actually brought in, though.
Devin Hester was one of them, I thought.
I think Dwight Freeney, and there's another pass rusher. It might have been Julius Peppers.
That's right.
It was. Yeah. That's my boy. One of my favorite players ever.
Dwight Freeney, Randy Gradishar, Devin Hester, Andre Johnson, Steve McMichael, Julius Peppers, and Patrick Willis are the guys that made it in this year. So, yeah, I remembered some of those guys, and I remember Devin Hester being the big talking point. But I'm glad he made it. Seahawks legend, Devin Hester.
Julius Peppers, underrated multi-sport athlete, too.
Very, very, very. I think underrated just in general, to be honest.
Oh, dude, he was good late in his career too. With Green Bay, he's actually still really good. He's one of my favorite Packers ever. I don't know why, but he's always consistent.
He was really good at North Carolina for basketball too. So good for that guy.
Do you guys want to talk about the NFL 100 list?
Oh yeah, thanks for reminding me.
We can. Yeah. How about?
I'm gonna say this much. this is why. Now, Truman and I talk about this all the time. This is why when I hear now, I don't think I'm trying to figure out the way to word this here. Basically, because I love getting the insight from the players, and it's a different perspective than what we have, but it is not always the word of grace.
Yeah, that's what I thought you were going to say, and I completely agree with you. And I feel like you said that like before on this podcast, with especially with analysts in the NBA, like we talk about Kendrick Perkins, and we've talked about Gilbert Arenas. Just because you are an athlete does not make it like your opinion more valid than anyone else's. I think it does help, but I think the biggest thing here is it's like with this list, I have a hard time imagining that every guy is going through from 100 to 1 and like really thinking about who he's putting at each slot. They're probably just like writing down guys they like, and they get to like 50 and they're like, I don't know, and they start just random people down. Like, they're NFL players. They're busy. They're not going to be sitting and contemplating for each position. So obviously some of them are going to be wrong, but there were some that were pretty egregious this year.
I think the most egregious one, Patrick Mahomes. Not even that he wasn't the number one player, but that he wasn't the number one quarterback. And I seen people's justification for this was that they voted before the playoffs, to which I say, even then, how can you say at that point, like, yes, he was not having his best season, but his track record, I think, spoke for itself that he was still the best player in the league.
I think it's confusion. Like, I think people, like, is it based off of just last season? Is it based off of everything that they've done in their career? I think it should solely be based on the season that they were playing, and if that's the case, and it's regular season, yeah, I think there's nothing wrong with having Mahomes at 4. If it's based off of their entire career, he should be number 1. But at the same time, this is the one that I honestly, Mahomes at 4 is horrible. Aaron Rodgers was at 92. Why was he on the list?
That's why he's the GOAT. He played as many snaps as like me last year. That's why he's the GOAT. He was so good that he made the list anyways. Nobody's favorite quarterback is doing it like that. He needed 2 snaps.
Aaron Rodgers would be number 1 on this list if you were voting.
100%.
Yeah. It's just, I saw that. I saw the thing. I saw it in my feed on Twitter. It came up, Trevor Lawrence 94, and I was like, nah, that's okay. He was kind of sucked last season. And then I went down and it was Aaron Rodgers 92, and I was like, all right, like this is how we're starting it. The first 10 picks got a guy who played like 2 snaps all season. Like, what are we doing? That's ridiculous.
I believe Justin Jefferson was behind Dak Prescott.
He was 18th, wasn't he? Or
yeah,
he was somewhere in like the top. Like, yeah, he was back a ways.
Yeah.
Just to say, can I make one point about the Aaron Rodgers thing? Like, outside of Aaron Rodgers, I found it hilarious how the only people in the NFL that complained about it were all Bears players. They came out to the media and they're like Jalen Johnson was almost in tears because he didn't make the top 100 and Aaron Rodgers did. Like, that is so funny because
I
didn't play, made it over every single player on your poverty franchise. Like, that's, I loved it.
Also, Deron Bland, I think he was like 39th. Oh.
DK Metcalf's son.
Yeah. And then the one thing I will say, Tariq Woolen made the list, but Devon Witherspoon didn't.
That one also was kind of questionable for me. One thing I will say,
I don't think you can say it's based off of last season because Tariq Woolen was not good last.
So yeah, I think it's vibes is what it is. It's like, I think this guy should be here, and then that's kind of the end of the thought process. There isn't like a dead set thing or rules for it or anything. And I think the other thing is people just look into it too much. It's not like, Patrick Mahomes gets put 4th and now he's not eligible for some bonus or something. It doesn't really mean anything. It's just kind of like it's going to change as soon as the season starts. No one's going to be like, oh, Patrick Mahomes is the 4th best player in the league. It doesn't really matter. It's just kind of fun to have some off-season discussion about it. But
That's
whatever.
the thing. It's just there to fill the void.
Yeah.
Before preseason games start, nothing's going on in sports. Let's get something to talk about.
Now, if, for example, let's say a certain quarterback on the Seattle Seahawks was on that list and he was put higher than everyone thought he would be, of course it would matter then. I would say it's the most important thing that you could have as a quarterback, but that's not the case, so I can't argue for it.
Did Gino make the list?
I don't think he did.
Okay. I wasn't
Which-
sure if he made it as one of the bottom ones or not.
He should have been top 10, but that's a discussion for another day.
Yeah. I guess we'll keep rolling here though. I'll get back to my notes. Do we want to do the fun part of training camp? We want to talk about that?
The only fun part?
Brawls! We got brawls at NFL training camp. The best part, leading off with the brawl at Titans camp after Jadeveon Clowney leveled Chuba Hubbard. There was a bit of a scuffle after that. Didn't get too out of control. Terrell, did you see that?
I didn't, but I immediately have to be on Chuba Hubbard's side, fellow Canadian. You got to stick with him. I don't know what the deal was there.
Any other thoughts on the brawl?
I might just pull it up and watch this because I haven't seen any of it.
Or should we go to the next one?
You can continue.
Have split team practices started?
No, I don't think they have yet because I haven't seen any brawls.
Yeah. There's a fight today in the split team practice.
Was there?
Yeah, it's Giants and I don't remember who the other team was.
Well, we've got another addition to the brawls list.
I don't remember.
That's where the brawls really come out when you're playing with other teams.
Hold on. I'll see if I can find it. It was
Giants Lions.
There we go. Yeah, it was on Raw.
Oh,
really?
Yeah. He got into a fight with Phillips, one of the corners for New York Giants, I think.
Yes, the corners that everyone knows the name of.
Hmm.
I can definitely name a corner on the New York Giants.
Deontay Banks, man, don't hate. He's a dog.
It's the first headline I came across. I haven't seen the video yet. Daniel Jones on getting involved in fight during Lions Giants.
He's trying to keep his job.
You try to stand up for your guys.
Drew
I
Phillips.
found it.
Amon-Ra fought Dane Belton and Drew Phillips.
Oh yeah, it's getting out of control here.
But the videos are always so funny because it's just like a group of people huddle around each other, and then like occasionally you can see someone get pushed. It's like that doesn't really mean anything to me.
They all punch open-handed. It's like they slap each other. It's like,
Well, because what else? I mean, are you going to punch a face mask?
no, but I just wouldn't get into a fight over a training camp with a guy that's not making the team.
That sounds like you don't want to be on the NFL roster. That's what it sounds like to me.
If I'm Amon-Ra St. Brown, I'm pretty sure I'm making a roster, and I'm not going to fight a rookie cornerback that's not going to make
This could be the deal breaker, man. You never know.
It's true.
Keep rolling here. There were two big brawls at Steelers camp. One was after a late hit on Justin Fields. That one got a bit crazy. I seen a headline when I first seen the video that said that it started after Justin Fields made a pass and turned to Russ and started trash talking him. I wish that was the case, but it wasn't true.
Oh, it was on offense? I was thinking this was like special teams players fighting each other.
If someone took the ball on kick return, he got mad.
There was also a fight at Browns training camp. Started off hot, but cooled down a bit. And then the other one that got a bit crazy was Derek Stingley. He decked Dalton Schultz at Texans training camp. Terrell, you're nodding your head. Did you see that one?
I didn't, but that's the kind of mentality I want from my defensive players. I want you to be a little bit out of it. You know, I want to be a little crazy, especially for secondary guys.
Michael Pittman, he got into a fight with some defenders at Colts training camp. That one was a little bit entertaining. Supposedly it was his second one of training camp, his fight, but I couldn't find the video of the other one. There was also a fight that got separated quickly at Jets training camp. And then this one I seen all over the headlines because it's the Chiefs. George Karlaftis, he rocked Kadarius Toney, and Toney threw the football at Karlaftis, and then a couple of players had words with him. And then way in the background, Travis Kelce came in like last minute to go after Karlaftis. You know, they almost fought, but wasn't really much that happened there.
Like, here's my question: what level? Like, let's say you are George Karlaftis. What's like the highest level of player you can punch, like before getting cut from the team? Because Kelsey, I feel like you're probably pretty close, where the team's going to be like, "All right, man, you got to knock it off."
But Kelsey's gotten into it at training camp before, though. Like he
That
got
is
into
true.
it last year. If he went after Patrick Mahomes,
That's
then-
what I was thinking. Like if
Yeah.
Mahomes stepped in and Karlaftis, I feel like no one would be that stupid, but you never know.
yeah.
Or if we went after Taylor Swift.
I don't know if Taylor Swift is attending the Kansas City training camp practices. If she is, props to her though. She's dedicated to the game.
Yeah.
Or
Last one.
George Karlaftis takes a flight to find Taylor Swift.
He's all of a sudden up on the stage.
The beef is serious.
The last one here.
Oh no! Did we
Sorry,
lose
you
Clayton?
guys all kind of
Oh, he's
froze
back.
on me there.
Oh, Clayton,
Yeah.
you're freezing.
Sorry, froze up there. The last one here, it involves the Seattle Seahawks. Supposedly there was a scuffle between DK Metcalf and Tariq Woolen, and I say supposedly because I couldn't find the video. But apparently Metcalf's been going at Woolen and Witherspoon all training camp, been paired up against them, and I mean he burned Witherspoon on the one play, made an insane one-handed catch. Terrell, I'm sure you saw that highlight. But I mean, Tariq Woolen getting into it, I want to see a bit more aggression out of him this season, so this might be a good sign.
My one takeaway is whenever there's fights at another team's training camp, it's unprofessional. You know, it's guys just aren't taking it seriously. But when it's my team, they're gritty. You know, it's iron sharpens iron. They're just tough. It's just a good mentality, unless it's someone else, in which case it's bad.
Yeah. Jake Bobo, he also made an incredible catch at Seahawks camp. I don't think you guys are ready for 2024 Bobo. And then Geno Smith, he was hurt but returned to practice today, so that's a good sign for the Seahawks. And as Terrell wrote down here,
Well,
Sam Howell is not good. Apparently there's been a lot of discussion. He has not looked good at Seahawks training camp. So.
that was not me. I was going to say that's the man above me here. That's Will.
Oh, that was Will that wrote that down.
Yeah. Just making sure everything Seahawks is being reported on.
We don't need your negativity in here. He's trying his best. That's what's important.
Yeah.
I'm attending a Seahawks game later this month. I'll be at the Browns preseason game in Seattle. My first Seahawks game, and it may be preseason, but I'm going to be cheering like it's the NFC Championship game.
You'll get
crazy.
You'll get to watch the electric quarterback duel of Sam Howell and Dorian Thompson-Robinson.
Yeah,
You might
going to be elite stuff.
You might get to see a Jake Bobo legacy game in preseason.
I was
going
to say, I bet you all get to see a Jake Bobo touchdown.
You got to get a jersey, Clayton. You got to get a Jake Bobo jersey.
True.
That'd be hilarious.
There's another Yates that has a Jake Bobo jersey. Field Yates. He's a big believer in Jake Bobo. It must just be a Yates thing, I guess. You guys wouldn't understand.
No.
By the way, Jake Bobo, happy one-day belated birthday, my glorious king, Jake Bobo. I believe it's your 24th rotation around the sun, so congratulations to you.
And I'm just saying this isn't going to be the last you hear of Jake Bobo in this episode, because we got a random list of the week coming up later.
Absolutely.
Do you guys have anything else for the NFL you want to talk about at all?
I'm just excited for the season to start.
For Patriots training camp, like I said earlier, you have to overreact to these things. Jalen Polk looks insane. Javon Baker looks insane.
Who?
Oh,
Oh, come on, bro.
this
He was
you're speaking of wide receiver 1 on the Steelers right now.
Come on, bro.
Well, you haven't even mentioned that Joe Milton's actually better than Drake May.
What?
That too.
Does he do a backflip?
Can
Hey.
Drake May do a backflip?
Hey, he can't. Not that I know of.
So he's better at least one thing.
Bazooka Joe is a spectacle.
Did you just make that up on the spot, or is that his actual nickname?
Oh, that's his nickname. Bazooka Joe.
Bazooka Joe? Okay, he's got the nickname game down too. So that's 2 things he's got better.
Hey, Drizzy Drake, though. Well,
Well,
yeah.
well, you're not helping your boy out right now. I will say that.
Yeah. Never mind. But also Matthew Judon is like back and forth in contract talks. So I don't know. Patriots have re-signed every other defender on the team or extended them. So I think it's either re-sign him or trade him for Aiyuk. Anything other than that would be a big disappointment.
I was going to say that's the one last thing I think we could talk about is 2 of the teams represented on this show, the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Patriots, but less so, are both apparently in talks to trade for Brandon Aiyuk. And I saw a report that came out. I sent it in the group chat, but I just had never seen the guy that reported it, saying that he already was headed to the Steelers. But then since then, I haven't seen it confirmed by anyone else. So, Taylor, as the Steelers fan, how are you feeling about Brandon Aiyuk to Pittsburgh?
I'll take him. It'd be nice. Good second receiver, I think, for Pickens. But I'm not going to keep my hopes up because
I think it's a fake report.
it is what it is. I mean, there's been stuff all off season that's where he wants to land. So I wouldn't be surprised. It's on his short list, but again, it is what it is. I'm not going to keep my fingers crossed because all my teams that I cheer for never land anybody super big when you want them. It's always the guy that you kind of forgot that was really good that might get traded to your team. So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
I will say this is not a slight to Pickens. I think this is just Aiyuk appreciation. I think he would be the receiver 1 on that team. I think he is that good.
I don't really care. I feel like it's a 1 and 2, but it's like a 1 and a 1.5.
Fair.
2
Very
ones.
fair.
I think they're
Different
both
skill sets.
I think they're both 1,000-yard receivers for sure. I mean, we saw with Pickens, he had 1,000 yards on like 40 catches last year. So he's definitely the deep threat. But we'll see. I don't know. I'm interested to see how Arthur Smith does this year. So see.
I forgot he's the OC there. They'll figure it out.
He's had some decent years as an OC.
I was going to say, he's fine when he's not the head coach.
Yeah, so at least, and I mean, Tomlin's Tomlin. So, and our defense has been good for a long time. So I'm not too worried. But
yeah,
I don't know. The division's hard though still. So fingers crossed.
So I think that does it for the NFL segment. Where do we want to go from here?
I have one more thing to say. I think it benefits the Patriots way more for Aiyuk than I think the Steelers.
Yeah,
I agree.
Like, I feel like the team that would probably, could use him like that would be a potential altering move on the offense would be probably more for the Patriots than the Steelers, I think. But again, I could be completely wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. And I don't know the numbers, but I think the Pats still have like a decent amount of cap space. Like they had the most in the league this year. So they could offer him some big money, the contract that he's looking for.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's got a top 3 pick quarterback coming in, and clearly the wide receiver 1.
Yeah, I think it just depends on like if he decides that he wants to go into a team that's like trying to reestablish themselves or a team that is semi-established already. I have no idea.
Yeah,
what he's going to want to do there. Because I think with him going to the Steelers, and if there's no injuries, we have a chance of making a run potentially. Whereas I think the Patriots is a project. So who knows if he wants that, whereas he's coming off a spot where he was, competing for Super Bowls. So who knows? that always plays a part, I think, in any player's head. But we'll see.
Okay. So where do we want to go from here?
I think maybe NHL. We can finish off with some baseball.
So I know I've got a lot of notes, so I'm going to try and fly through this. Winners and losers of the NHL offseason so far. First winner here, Washington Capitals. Traded for Logan Thompson and Jacob Chikrin. They also signed Matt Roy. They acquired Andrew Mangiapane from the Flames for a 2025 second-round pick. And I still don't think Washington's going to be a top team next season. But I think that they're going to be a strong playoff team as opposed to last year where I don't think in other years they're even in the playoffs. It was just that the bottom of the Eastern Conference wasn't good. So they ended up getting in and they got smacked in the first round. But I think next year they're going to be a better team. And I think as well, some of these pieces that they've acquired, I think that the goal for Washington at this point, like I don't know if they're expecting to be contenders, but I think they want to get Ovi the goal record. And I think some of these pieces that they've brought in are going to help in that regard. Pierre-Luc Dubois, I think it's a gamble, but I think if he can fit there, if we can see the Dubois that we've seen in Columbus, I think it can be a good fit. I do like the Chikrin trade as well. And I'll get into the Logan Thompson trade a bit more when we talk about the losers here. Truman, any thoughts on the Caps?
One, or actually two notes on this. One, the Dubois trade was a fleecing for a 35-year-old goalie that can't stay healthy, that's still on a big contract for a couple more years. Like, I hate Dubois, but that was a fleecing. I think he can easily be a top 6 center on that team. And I get the deal isn't great like down the road, but that's a steal in my opinion. Second, I have not paid attention to hockey at all. I didn't even know Jacob Chikrin actually got traded to Washington, so that's news to me.
Yeah. Next winner here, I've got San Jose. Simply because I thought the Sharks had the best draft out of anyone. Even take away the Macklin Celebrini pick. And I thought that Mike Greer did a fantastic job at the Sphere in Vegas. So even outside of Celebrini, who I think is going to be their franchise, the face of their franchise for the next 15 years, possibly, they got Sam Dickinson, great two-way defenseman from the London Knights, at pick 11. They also added Igor Chernyshov and Leo Saulin-Wallenius in the second round. And if you saw my mock draft, first off, it wasn't very accurate in the end, but it was an unpredictable draft going in. I seen an article by Bob McKenzie about a month before the draft saying that after Celebrini, it's an unpredictable ride, and that's really what it was. And Saulin-Wallenius and Chernyshov both land in San Jose in the second round. Chernyshov's being looked at as more of a power forward out of Russia. I think the thing with Chernyshov maybe is there isn't much that sticks out about him. And then Saulin-Wallenius, he's very quick defenseman, great at getting back to defend. So I like both of those picks for San Jose. And then the big-time winner, I went with the Nashville Predators because congratulations, Nashville. You have decided that you don't want to be in the same tier as the Minnesota Wild and any other team that has no clue where they want to go. Because whether you like the contracts that they signed or not, they signed Jonathan Marchessault, Steven Stamkos, Brady Shea. Those are all three right now very good players. And like I said, if you don't like the term on those contracts, at least Nashville decided that they want to go all in here. And I respect that out of them because for the last few years, it's been unclear whether this team is going all in or if they're going to try and rebuild. And it finally looks like there's a clear direction from the Predators. And kudos to Barry Trotz, who I think's done a great job there for his first year as a GM. Like I said, the term maybe on those contracts is a bit much, but At least they've defined their motivation. And yeah, I think they have a huge opportunity to take that next step next season because there's two, I think, contenders in that division. I think Dallas is still going to be a contender next year. Colorado, I don't care for their depth, but I will say they've still got the high end talent. They've still got Nathan McKinnon. They've still got Cale Makar, Mikko Rantanen. They've got a great team. So I think that Nashville can pretty easily be the third team. And if they have a great season, if they're firing on all cylinders, they may just end up winning the Central Division, I think. Truman, any thoughts for the Preds?
I don't know. It's just kind of sad to see guys in new places, I guess. Like, I don't know. You get accustomed to seeing people in certain jerseys, and I won't go on about the Stamkos situation, but like, it's handled poorly, obviously, and same with Marchessault. Like, I don't know. I think Clayton will probably go up and in at some point, but I thought Vegas had like a terrible offseason. I get, like, obviously they got Hurdle, and that like lessens the blow, but I thought it was pretty unsuccessful on their end. They kind of just they lost guys, and they didn't replace them with anything that I felt was a plus move. But that might
Well, speaking of the first loser here, Vegas Golden Knights. Now here's the thing. I don't think you can say that this is their downfall yet. I also hate that expression. This downfall needs to be studied when it's like they make one trade. Like, I don't think you can say it's their downfall yet. If they have a bad season and if they miss the playoffs, maybe you can start throwing that word around. But at the same time, I don't think we're there yet. But I will say, like Truman said, I don't think you can consider this offseason a success by any means. I'm going to say this, though. They got hit by the Stanley Cup tax. I talked about it on the TikTok, and I'll probably re-emphasize it here. So I think there was 5 key pieces that they lost. And I think for each key piece, there's either too much term or too much money that the player got elsewhere. Starting off, I guess we'll talk Alec Martinez. Vegas could have signed that 1-year, $4 million contract if they didn't already have 6 players in the lineup that are already, I think, NHL regular starting players or starting caliber players, we'll say. Because their top 6 still consists of Hannafin, Pietrangelo, Theodore, McNabb, Haig, Whitecloud. That's a pretty damn good starting 6. And I'm not even being biased because I've seen a lot of other people saying it's one of the best defense cores in the NHL. Now, as for the forwards, they lose 4 key pieces at forward. They lose Michael Amadio, who I think was a great depth piece over the last few seasons for the VGK. However, 3 years, $2.6 million a year. I think that's a little bit rich per season for Amadio. 3 years, maybe you could have gotten away with this deal, but I'm not entirely sure. Will Carrier, 6 years, $2 million. This is one they maybe could have gotten away with because I think it's such a low AAV for Carrier. I think he actually brings more than the $2 million AAV that he's getting now from Carolina. But the thing with Carrier, struggled with injuries the last few seasons, and there's a good chance like he may not be playing in the NHL by the time that 6th year hits. Chandler Stevenson, I'm not signing that contract. Great player in his time with the VGK, but I'm sorry, 6 years or 7 years and 6.3 million AAV. Was it, Truman?
Yeah, I think so. It was a way too big of a deal.
Yeah, and I said it at the trade deadline too. They had Stevenson's replacement in Hurdle. They've already got him lined up. And for whatever reason, I will say this: I don't think Thomas Hurdle fit in with the team in the playoffs. I thought in the regular season Hurdle was great. In the playoffs, he didn't fit in, and I think maybe there was just. This sounds like such a sorry excuse, but I think it's the truth. Too many guys, I think, with too many spots. I think the best case that you saw that with was Anthony Mantha, who did not fit in. And I'm not even going to talk about him because I don't actually think he's a loss from this team. He didn't bring anything since the trade deadline. And I think he can be a good player for the Flames, but he was not great for Vegas. Then the last one, Jonathan Marchessault, the biggest loss. Number 81 is going to be the first jersey in the rafters of T-Mobile Arena, and if it's any other number, I wouldn't know why. Won the Conn Smythe in 2023. I think Vegas should have signed this con. So supposedly, here's what happened with Marchessault. Now, Marchessault's done a lot of talking in the media that Vegas lowballed him. Here's what happened, and this was straight from Kelly McCrimmon. Vegas offered the same amount of money as Nashville did, but the contract was structured differently. So basically, it was a 5-year contract. Vegas wanted, now it would be $5 million, 5.5 AAV, the same as what Nashville gave them. But the thing was that Vegas would be paying at the start of the contract a lower amount of money, and then it would defer the money to the end of the contract, if that makes sense. Marchessault didn't like that, and I think what Vegas's plan with that was that way, if towards the end of the deal he isn't great, they can trade him and get off the hook from the bigger money. But I will say, here's why I have him a loser, because yes, I just did say that I think those contracts either have too much term or too much money, but they didn't find, I don't think, any proven replacements this offseason for Marchessault. They have Alexander Holtz, who I think is I think he's going to be a great addition to the Vegas Golden Knights. I think he's going to take a step next season, but to fill Marchessault's shoes, he's going to have to take a massive leap, and I just don't think he can. I also think with this team now, because they did lose the depth pieces in Carrier and Amadio, that this team is going to need to rely on full health going through the season. Like, they've struggled with injuries. If guys like Eichel, Stone, and Hurdle are regularly hurt next year, I don't know if this team makes the cut. Whereas in previous years, they were built so that if they did lose a top guy, that they would be fine. Truman, I know you had a smile on your face a couple of times. Was there anything I said that you disagreed with?
Not disagreed with. I don't know, man. Honestly, Vegas is probably going to bounce back this year, and I don't know, everything will be just out the window. Jeez. Who's got the pinging on over there?
Sorry. I don't know how to turn this off. I got a new laptop, and I'm trying to figure out how to mute it.
Taylor, you're looking like my grandpa over here. What's going on?
How do you mute it?
I think I found it, guys.
I don't know how to do it. Sorry.
Hey, I will say the camera quality is
it's elite.
Always, that's what $2,700 gets you. Sometimes you just gotta shell it out.
I love it.
Yep. It does look pretty crispy, hey? Damn. Yeah. See every piece of hair in my beard. All right.
But
sorry,
yeah.
Clay. We can get back on track.
Yeah. I don't know. Vegas is, I don't know. That division's kind of tough, but they did lose a lot.
I think that there's like 2 teams better than them. I'm sorry. I don't fucking believe in the LA Kings. They're like the LA Kings. I'm sorry. They're not finishing ahead of the Golden Knights. And you can clip this and you can play it.
What if they do? Yeah.
No, they're not. I'm sorry. I don't believe in the LA Kings after what they just did this past season. Like, that was a sorry performance in the playoffs.
What if Anaheim does?
I'm about to talk about them. Because the one team that I could maybe see would be the Kraken if they get a big year out of Stevenson and Montour. But, yeah. Next loser. Sorry?
I like the Kraken's defense a lot.
I do too. Next loser here, the Anaheim Ducks. This is a team that I thought could move towards being a playoff team, like Truman just said, but they haven't had a good offseason. Like, who have they added? Actually, I have the answers here, but I want to ask you, Truman, who have the Anaheim Ducks added? Because they were the 30th place team in the NHL. So who could the Anaheim Ducks have added to go from 30th place to the playoffs?
Robbie Fabry.
That's maybe jumping. That maybe gets you 2 more points.
Robbie Fabry's a dog, man. He's taking them all away. They're a different team with Robbie Fabry on that third line.
Well, don't forget about Brian Dumoulin, Truman.
Oh, I didn't.
That's a fake name.
Brian Dumoulin?
Especially saying Truman right after it.
Dumoulin Truman.
Why are you hating on my name, bro?
Nah, just the rhyme is crazy.
Dumoulin, Trumoulin?
That's straight out of like Roald Dahl book.
Roald Dahl, that's a deep cut.
The other thing I was going to say about the Ducks, not only did I think they had a bad free agency and trading, but I did not like the draft they had. I did not like the Beckett Seneca pick. Beckett Seneca can possibly be a top line winger in the NHL, but he is not worth a third overall pick. Like, you had Ivan Demidov at that pick available. You had Caden Lindstrom available. You had take your pick from the defense that was available, and you went with Beckett Seneca. I don't think that that's a great pick by the Ducks. In fact, Beckett Seneca, I think, knew it wasn't a great pick by the Ducks.
Fuck, dude. How do you turn this off?
But then
Turn
the
on
ultimate-
DND up top.
Huh?
Up top in the focus bar. Turn on Do Not Disturb.
Focus bar. Oh, I got it.
Attaboy.
Yeah. Okay, we're good.
We're back.
Yeah, we
Sorry.
back.
I had a MacBook before and I turned it off and I never turned it back on, and then I got a new one and they're on again and I don't know how to turn them off. Sorry.
ultimate loser here, the Buffalo Sabres. There's no team that I think has more pressure to make the playoffs next year than the Buffalo Sabres. And I'm tired of hearing about this team has such a great prospect pool. They have such a great future. They've been saying that for years now, and they've gotten no results. So why should I believe that this time is different? That's what I'm going to say. And they've not improved this offseason to move closer to being a playoff team. They traded the 43rd overall pick for Beck Malenstein, who just had a career high of 21 points. That 43rd overall pick just turned into Cole Hudson, who I think it could be an absolute stud defenseman out of the USNTDP for the Washington Capitals. They also bought out
is Beck Mellenstein.
Malenstein.
Who is that?
Good question. The Buffalo Sabres traded the 43rd overall pick for him.
I have no clue. That's a scrub right there.
Yeah. And then they bought out Jeff Skinner. And Truman, you and I both don't like buyouts. I think they're a horrible strategy.
Agreed.
They overpaid Jason Zucker. They signed Sam Lafferty, James Reimer, and Nicholas Aube-Kubel. Man, those are some needle movers right there. And then they traded Matt Savoy, who I think has a chance to become a star in the NHL, for a depth piece in Ryan McLeod. And the Buffalo Sabres still have $8 million in cap space. If they're pushing towards the playoffs, I think you have to use more of that to try and get better players to improve this team. Because you can't use the excuse now that, well, we didn't have the cap space. You did, but you in the stuff that you did use, you used it to sign Jason Zucker. Like, this team is not making the playoffs, and I mean, my question for the Buffalo Sabres is it going to be this season or after the next season after that when Tage Thompson requests a trade?
I don't know. Depends if he tanks again this year, and he's not good. Then he might not even be good enough to demand a trade anymore.
Yeah, Rasmus Dahlin might, I guess. But.
Yeah, he might. He might. That'll be this year. That'll be midway through this year for sure. You can book it.
Yeah, and then you know what the weirdest part of this all is that now I respect the heck out of Sabres fans for even sticking by this team, but when I see Buffalo Sabres fans' reactions to these moves, they're like, Oh yeah, of course we would trade Matt Savoy for Ryan McLeod. Why wouldn't you? And it's like, and it's now I'm sure that there are Sabres fans that are like, no, this is a dumb move. Why are we doing this? But a lot of what I see is Sabres fans defending their GMs, the management, and I'm just like, why? Like, I don't get it. But Truman left there for a second.
He'll be
guess,
back.
Yeah. I guess we'll go on to the news here. The Oilers, I think they've had a. I was going to put them as a winner until the GM hiring. I'm not a fan of them hiring Stan Bowman. Um, I don't think. I think there's enough candidates out there. I don't think Stan Bowman. I think he's lost his privilege for having a job in the NHL with what happened in Chicago in 2010. That's my opinion on it. And even then, like, I'm not even going to get into the hockey side of this because I think that alone should just be the reason why he shouldn't have a job in the NHL. And then, but for the rest of the Oilers offseason, I thought they were doing good before that. I think they're a cup favorite going into next year. They've improved, I think, their forward core, even though I thought they were played well in the postseason. They did re-sign Corey Perry, Connor Brown, Adam Henrique, and Matthias Janmark. They brought in Jeff Skinner and Victor Arvidsson, who I think can be key pieces potentially in the top six. And they did, on the other side of that trade, Ryan McLeod and Matt Savoy. I think Savoy has a chance to really flourish in Edmonton once he arrives in the NHL, whether that's this season or next. I think he's going to be a star instantly if he's put with Connor McDavid or Leon Draisaitl. Next one, more draft talk here. I thought the Islanders got a steal for Cole Eiserman at 20. I thought Philadelphia reached on Jet Luchenko, but it was disguised. At least they did it with a Michael Buffer introduction. That was pretty awesome. Legendary way to announce the pick. And then I've debated putting Philly as a loser. They have Mishkov coming in next year, so I think that alone's a huge W. Coming in a year or two, I think it was 2 years before he was expected to. It's a huge W for Philly. I don't think that they've surrounded him, though, with enough talent this offseason to make him a playoff team. But I guess we'll just have to see. Montreal, I thought they got the second best player in the draft at 5. I'm really high on Ivan Demidov. And then another potential steal in Michael Hage at 21, who had a rough start to the season, but was going through some personal stuff and had a fantastic second half of the season. So I think it's a good draft for Montreal, Taylor.
Yes, sir. I think so too.
Another pick I liked, Antoine Salayev at 10 by New Jersey. I thought going in he was the second best defenseman in the draft. I did a video on him in, I think, November or December. Was really high on him and still was when the draft rolled around. The one thing that I did see people say was that he has no offense to his game. I don't think that that's true because he set the record for KHL under 18 points ever. So I don't think you can say he has no offense. He's great defensively, and I think that's really his best trait to him is he's a shutdown defenseman. I think he has the potential to be like a Zdeno Chara because he's also 6'8", I believe, or 6'7". I think he has the potential to be a Zdeno Chara for the New Jersey Devils. I think that can be huge for them. Ducks and Kings, they released new jerseys. I think they're awesome. I love the Anaheim Ducks jersey, the orange one with the Mighty Ducks logo. You guys are nodding your heads. I think you guys saw it.
Yeah. Like I feel like we've said it so many times that like every retro logo just always looks better than any modern one. It's still true. Yeah, this Anaheim Ducks jersey is just sick.
Yeah. Brett Sutter from the Calgary Wranglers. He retired. He's now joining the Wranglers coaching staff as an assistant coach. And my question is there going to be another Sutter rise to power in the Calgary Flames organization? Because Daryl's worked there. Why are you shaking your head? Daryl's worked there.
Stick to
Brian
farming.
Sutter.
Stick to farming and making beer. Their beer's pretty good. They probably got some nice crops. Stick to that.
You got nice.
Broad farmers, mid crops.
Yeah.
Stick to coaching.
They give me the vibes. They're good at grilling a steak on the barbecue on a nice Saturday evening. Just stick to that.
Get ready to speak farmer, buddy.
Yeah, honestly.
Mark my words. Brett Sutter is going to be the head coach of the Calgary Flames in 10 years.
Maybe that's just like part of their genetic code. It's like they have to coach the Flames at some point.
Like,
They're like obligated.
you know how we banish NBA players to Guangzhou, China, or whatever? We're going to ban Sutter.
Brett Sutter to the field.
We're putting Brett Sutter in the middle of a cornfield in Saskatchewan.
Put him in the middle of the corn maze. Once he gets out, he can be the coach.
Yeah.
There's no exit.
Yeah.
And then gonna end off here with a little bit of Lightning talk. Kel Sergachev, he was traded to Utah. Was a key piece on those Lightning teams, the one back-to-back Stanley Cups. I like the return that the Lightning got. Was a package of players. One of them was Connor Geekie, who was a first-round pick of the Arizona Coyotes. There was another guy that I liked in that package. I don't have it written down here. But Mikhail Sergachev, I also like that move for Utah. They're moving towards becoming a playoff team, and I think this definitely strengthens their defense. And then Jake Gensel, he signed with the Lightning, and I love this move for Tampa. He's a playoff performer on a team that is expecting to make the playoffs, and they haven't made a deep run now in the last 2 years, but I think that they're looking to get back to the mountaintop by being aggressive with this move to acquire Jake Gensel. So I like that move for Tampa. $9 million AAV as well. I thought Gensel could get up to $10 million if he wanted 10 or maybe even 11 from a team that was really desperate to get him, I thought. But I think that does it now for the NHL. Where do we want to go from here?
I think we might as well go to the MLB. I was kind of hoping Truman was going to be here, but who knows? Maybe he'll check back in at some point. So I guess to start it off, pardon?
Said he hasn't paid his Wi-Fi bill.
Yep.
Got cut off right in the middle. No power. He's sitting in the darkness right now.
The gas.
Gas ain't pumping.
He's starting a generator to get his laptop charged.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll start off. Really, the biggest thing in the MLB is the trade deadline. And shockingly, at least to me, the Blue Jays are quite active. I really was not expecting that from them. I thought they would stay pat. That's kind of what they had been saying for a while. That was the message from the front office, was that they believed they could be contenders and that they were going to try to be contenders. And then trade deadline came around and they started off with a couple more minor deals initially. The first few, I think they started off, Yimi Garcia and Danny Jansen were some of the first few guys gone. Nate Pearson as well. In the Yimi Garcia deal, they got Jonathan Clase, who's a minor leaguer from the Mariners. And then Nate Pearson, they got a couple of prospects from the Cubs. No one really a note there. Kind of same thing with Danny Jansen. I will say that out of all the trades that the Blue Jays have made, Danny Jansen, that one really stings, especially going to the Red Sox. Believe he was the longest tenured player on that team still. So now to see him going to a division rival kind of sucks, but I hope for the best for him there, and hopefully he'll be on a better team than the Blue Jays because he deserves that. Justin Turner also dealt also to the Mariners, got another outfield prospect. Trevor Richards to the Twins. IKF, this one was kind of shocking to me that we got a solid player in return for him, but IKF went to the Pittsburgh Pirates. We got infielder Charles McAdoo, who in high A and double A is almost at a 1,000 OPS, 14 home runs, batting .315. He's been fantastic for them. So looking forward to that. And then we flipped Kevin Kiermaier for Ryan Yarbrough who is just pretty much going to be eating innings. He's really the only veteran that the Blue Jays got. But I left one trade out, which I think was the biggest trade and maybe the biggest steal of the trade deadline for anybody, which was Yusei Kikuchi to the Houston Astros. In return, Blue Jays got 25-year-old Joey Loperfido. He's an outfield prospect. Right-hander Jake Bloss, 23. And then infielder Will Wagner, 26, who's the son of the Astros closer Billy Wagner. If you've been following the Blue Jays at all, you knew that Kikuchi was on a bit of a cold stretch in the past little bit. His ERA was up over 7, I believe, through July, or right around 7, high 6s. And he hasn't been having a fantastic season even outside of that. So I wasn't expecting them to sell him for anything. But once we started seeing some other guys get traded for really more returns than people were expecting them for, I was kind of hoping that the Jays would trade Kikuchi. And they ended up getting 2 pretty high-level prospects. They instantly became high in the Blue Jays farm system. That's more of an indictment on the Jays farm system than I think is a compliment of either of the guys that the Jays brought in. And then another third guy in Will Wagner, who I think can just kind of be like a bench guy, and he's had some solid contact in AAA. But Joey Loperfido got traded immediately, was in the team starting. He was in the 2-hole in the Orioles series. I'm really looking forward to him developing. He's got great tools, like really everything you're looking for in a guy. And then for Jake Bloss, hopefully he can be a major league pitcher. He's been looking pretty good. He had a few starts in the MLB, and they weren't the best. But in the minors, he was fantastic. So hopefully he can pull it all together. But overall, for the Blue Jays at the trade deadline, I was very surprised. Not only that they made as many moves as they did, but that they made as many good moves as they did. I've been pretty outspoken about my lack of faith in this Blue Jays front office, specifically Ross Adkins. But if he had his hand in all these deals, then I say props to you, and it'll add you something to put on your resume when you look for another job next year. I still don't want him on this team. But yeah, for the Blue Jays, I was very happy with this trade deadline. And sticking with the Blue Jays, I have been a proponent of signing Vlad long-term for a long time, and I've been on that train for an extended period of time, really since the start of the season. And he went on a bit of a heater, and then he got hurt by Garrett Cole, hit him in the hand, cooled off a bit, and then right in the middle of July, he's turned it right back around. Since July 14th, which is the final game of the Arizona Diamondbacks series, he is hitting 500, 9 home runs, 18 RBIs, 17 game played, and that is a 1638 OPS. He's brought his season OPS up over 900, and his OPS in that time is the highest in Major League Baseball. Only guys behind him: Jock Peterson, Aaron Judge, and they all have lower plate appearances than Vlad does. So, like I said, I've said it multiple times on the show, on our Twitter, on wherever. They need to sign Vlad. They need to extend him. That's been my thought process for a while, and now he's starting to turn it back around, and he's putting up production similar to his 2021 MVP runner-up season. So, man, they need to get this done as soon as possible, as far as I'm concerned. If he is not a Blue Jay for, I'd say, even double digits at this point, this contract needs to be at least 10 years. It's an indictment. It's a failure from this Blue Jays front office. He needs to be a Blue Jay for life, I think. But at the very least, just get this extension done and keep him on the team for a while, because he's going to be probably one of the few bright spots on this team for the near future, if I had to guess. And he is showing why he's worth that amount of money right now. Best hitter in baseball at the moment. Yeah, he's just been fantastic. So I'm glad he's turning it around, and I hope that the Blue Jays just open up the checkbook and say, write down whatever number you're feeling like, Vlad. You can have it. And then the last thing, this is pretty positive, I will say, for the Blue Jays. So we got to end it off on a little bit of negativity, get back to what we're used to. Obviously, big sellers at the deadline. Not everyone was dealt, but there were a lot of guys. And then right after the deadline, they had a day off. So the Blue Jays official account was posting highlights of some of the new acquisitions in the minor leagues, and their replies were full of people being like, wow, this is what it's coming to, huh? 2024, we're posting highlights of minor league players. And like, I was just like, what do you expect them to do? They've dealt all these guys away.
Yeah.
You have all these new players that people haven't seen before, and they're already producing in the minors. So the Blue Jays team Twitter account that doesn't have anything to post because the Blue Jays aren't playing are posting highlights of these guys, and then people are complaining about it. It just doesn't make sense to me. I think people are so fed up with this team that they would be mad at whatever the Blue Jays did, which is fair enough. But man, like, don't take it out on the minor leaguers that just got here. It's not really a good look for us as fans.
I also,
Um,
I also just think, like you said, they're taking out their frustration there, and that's really all it is. Because I think, like, there's absolutely nothing wrong with posting videos of your prospects. Especially, I think you should be posting videos of your prospects, and I think more teams should do this so that people are informed of what's coming in the future, right?
Absolutely. That was my main thing. Is it's like, well, like if you don't follow any of the Blue Jays minor league teams, like, do you just want them to have like zero idea of what the farm system's looking like? Um, do you want to have no idea who any of these prospects are? Would you rather the Blue Jays not acknowledge that they traded away a whole bunch of players and got a bunch of guys in return? Like, yeah, I think it's whatever the Blue Jays did, people would have complained, but I think that's the correct thing to do. I think it makes sense, trying to get some hype for some of the new guys that the organization brought in, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. For the rest of the trade deadline, what I was really hoping is that Truman could be here so we could talk about Jazz Chisholm and the New York Yankees and his insane start with them.
Yeah,
He had,
a heater.
pardon?
He's been on a heater.
He was on a heater, and it's cooled down slightly, but not like an egregious amount. He just started off so incredible with them. I think he had 4 home runs in his first 3 games or something. He was just incredible. I think that's a great pickup for them. It really just makes sense, everything that he is. He's a good defender, obviously left-handed batter out there in New York. It just makes sense. The one thing I was concerned about is he has always kind of been a very outspoken, I don't know how you describe him, but he's a unique character. I was a little worried that going to New York would kind of tamp that a little bit, make him not so interesting. But, then you see the video of him and he's got, like a lime green belt on and he's bat flipping out there. And I'm like, okay, he's still got it. That's good. So yeah, it's kind of sucks for me. I like Jazz. I don't like the New York Yankees. So I'm a little conflicted, but I wish him as much success as possible while the New York Yankees don't win anything. And then some other deals at the trade deadline. There were quite a few made. Isaac Paredes went to the Chicago Cubs, and going the other way was Christopher Morel going to Tampa Bay. I think that's a good move for both teams. I think it makes sense for Tampa Bay, who are big sellers this deadline, obviously shipping out Randy Rosarena as well, going to Seattle. But I like it for them, and I think the Rays are always pretty proactive in terms of what they need to be doing with their roster, and they realized, hey, we're not going to be competing this year, so you might as well see what we can get for everyone on the roster as we speak, and they have really hit the reset button, and I think they did a good job of doing it at the right time. Same with the Miami Marlins, who obviously we said spoke of Jazz Chisholm going to New York. Also traded away a couple of relievers, and they have also just reset their farm system completely in one trade deadline. They were a team that really wasn't going to be doing anything regardless, so to get a whole bunch of nice young prospects to bring them in and hopefully reset everything makes a lot of sense. And yeah, I think the Rays and the Marlins both had fantastic trade deadlines. But yeah, I mean, really, it's just a lot more trade deadline stuff. There weren't a ton of big names moved. There were some pitchers. Zach Eflin went to Baltimore. Christian Pache, I think, went to Baltimore and then got released. So there's a whole bunch of stuff. And then I'll say, I think for the last thing, unless if there's anything you guys want to talk about, is as we all know, the Blue Jays DFA'd Kevon Biggio. I think it's a couple months ago at this point, and he was just DFA'd by the Dodgers today. So welcome back to Buffalo. You'll be welcomed with open arms, Mr. Biggio. I don't think he's going to find a major league team anywhere else. If the Dodgers can't keep him there with the amount of holes they have in their infield, it's going to be tough for him to find a job anywhere else in the MLB.
Yeah. And then you talked as well about the Mike Trout injury.
Oh, I haven't. That is true. I forgot to write that down. Or I have it written down. I forgot to talk about it. Yeah, Mike Trout, he's been out for a while, and it's confirmed that he tore his meniscus and is going to be out for the rest of the season as well. Tough. Obviously, I think it was right at the start of the season. I was like, we need a healthy Mike Trout season because he started off super hot and was playing fantastic. And then shortly after that, he got injured, and now it's confirmed that he's out for the rest of the year. I did have the question down here as if he retires today, is he a Hall of Famer? And I was kind of thinking that Truman would be here for that discussion. But if you guys have any thoughts on him as a Hall of Famer, you can speak your mind right now.
I think he is.
Same.
And you do have it written down here. Will he go down as one of the biggest what ifs ever? I still think that's also a yes. I think it will go down as a what if. There's a lot of what ifs in that scenario. I think, like, what if the Angels had built a better team around him as well? But yeah, I think he's accomplished a lot in his time as a player. So yeah.
I think he also will be, and I think anyone that disagrees just doesn't understand the impact that he had and when he was healthy. He was one of the best players ever when he was on the field. And up until recently, he was on the field pretty consistently. And then I think since about 2019, he's been plagued by injuries. So I think he's like pretty easily a Hall of Famer. His numbers line up with any of the Hall of Fame guys in terms of wins above replacement. Anything really you pick. He's up there with the greats. So I think he makes it, and I completely agree. He is one of the biggest what ifs in sports. A lot of the time when you think of stuff like that, you think of guys who got injured like early in their career or just didn't pan out the way that you expected them to. But for Mike Trout, I think it's different because we saw the talent that he could be, and we saw even as he's gotten older, the talent that he still has, but he just can't stay on the field and make it happen. Because he was at a 40 home run pace like immediately if he would have stayed healthy this whole season. So, yeah, I don't know. It's just tough. Wish he could have been out there healthy. Who knows what he's going to do next season? I hope he comes back, but as these injuries start to pile up, I think it's tough for those guys to make those decisions. But yeah, hopefully he's back next season.
Okay. Then do we want to talk NBA? Unless Terrell, do you have anything else for the MLB? No. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, nothing going on in the NBA. I was just gonna kind of talk Olympic basketball.
Okay.
I mean, at the time of the recording, the pool play is done. Probably by the time you're listening to this, quarterfinals games will be in progress or finished. USA up top, Germany coming in second, and Canada in third. So that's kind of the big three of the quarterfinals. I haven't really watched any other games other than Canada's, but man, Canada looks good. They're freaking sweet, man. Like, offensively, defensively is crazy because, I mean, you got Lou Dort, and then you switched on to Dylan Brooks. Shea comes in to help. Like, it's just like you're getting hounded on defense.
Kelly Olynyk down there in the post, holding it down.
You got Kem Birch putting in meaningful minutes.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
It's a rough day when a guy guarding you wearing the number 92. It's a
seriously.
That's the defensive specialist number right there.
That's like the AI Smith at the end of the bench on 2K.
Yeah, brown shirt.
Yeah,
John Johnson, 60 overall.
Yeah,
seriously.
Yeah.
But
Sorry, Finn, go ahead.
No, you go.
I never understood why the numbers for international basketball was so weird. Is it because they're retired player? Like, I don't understand. Like, Steph Curry wears number 4. Why can you not wear number 30?
I feel like it's guys just wanted to wear something different.
I guess it just seems weird because there's some people. It's like why is Kevin Durant wearing number 14 or whatever he's wearing? Like, it's just like it seems like it's kind of like weird. And I feel like none of the NBA players on any team are wearing the right number.
Bron's got 6, doesn't he?
Yeah, Braun wears
I guess
6.
LeBron has 6.
But he also started like playing in the Olympics when he was number 23.
Yeah.
So
And it's just like Curry wearing number 4 is kind of weird.
yeah, that's crazy.
Kevin Birch wearing 92. Like, why not just wear your normal number?
Well, that's the only number that was available to him.
Yeah.
They said this is the only one we got left, Cam.
Yeah.
He doesn't have a normal number. He's not in the
No.
league.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So I just find it kind of weird. Like, why? There must be some actual reason to it.
Although Team Canada is pretty, like they wear their own numbers.
Yeah.
Jay's wearing 2, RJ's wearing 9, Brooks is 24. Like, although Jamal Murray, I think, is wearing number 4. But
Maybe they have an agreement, him and
Yeah.
Curry.
who knows? But yeah, France is Canada's matchup, which would be fun. It's gonna be fun.
So
Taylor?
I found the reason why. The FIBA back in the day until 2014, the rules was the jersey numbers on the team was number 4 to number 15.
Oh, really?
So you had to be that number. And FIBA eliminated that rule in 2014, but the Team USA has kept the tradition.
Oh,
All
I
right.
guess that makes sense.
There was just, yeah. Literally, the headline says, "Why is Curry wearing number 4 and not number 30?"
Yeah.
So there was an actual rule. So that makes sense.
They're allowed to wear number 4 to 15 and number 92.
I want to know more about why they started at 4.
Yeah, not like 1.
True.
Yeah.
That's weird.
Well, isn't Anthony Edwards wearing number 1 right now?
He doesn't
I think
fit.
you're
He's,
right,
he's
yeah.
too cool. He doesn't need the rules. Everyone else with him, they
Maybe
still
it's
apply
just
to.
one. Maybe it's 1 to 15. They decided to keep the tradition on.
Yeah. Who knows?
Huh.
Yeah. Some matchups that are going on the first day of quarterfinals. France versus Canada. Germany is playing Greece. U.S. is taking on Brazil. And Serbia will face off against Australia.
Anthony Edwards wearing number 10, so it would meet the criteria.
Okay. Other than that, I got nothing for basketball.
I was kind of surprised that Canada did go 3-0 in the group. Thought Australia would give them a bigger game, and I also thought Spain would give them more of a run.
Well, that Spain game was
It was close. That's
tight.
true. But I also
all the games were close.
yeah, I just think
Canada pulled through in the end.
I feel like they didn't play their best in the Greece game.
Yeah.
And I was like, they snuck away with that one
Mhm.
with a guy that looked like my social studies teacher at point guard for the Greece team.
Yeah.
Well, if you got Giannis, it doesn't really matter who everyone else
Oh, I
is.
know. I'm just saying, like, none of them besides Giannis are playing in the NBA.
Oh, yeah.
So I was like, this might be a rough go, but the way they're playing now, I think they're probably the only team that gives the U.S. a real run. Maybe an Australia masterclass, but like, I think Canada's got the best chance. So fingers crossed.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
Canada's got some tough competition. Like, they won't face off against the U.S. until the final, like in an ideal situation. But to get there, they got to beat France tomorrow, and then Germany after that. Germany or Greece, but most likely Germany.
Yeah, France is not an easy matchup. I think Germany they could figure that out, but I think France is with Wemby and Gobert. It's Evan Fournier. It's a tough spot for them, but hopefully they make it to the finals because that'd be a great game.
Yeah,
US
I'm excited to watch. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got nothing
And-
else sorry, Terrell.
I was just going to say that's a good transition to talk about some of the other events in the Olympics because if the American basketball team doesn't win gold at this Olympics and the Noah Lyles won gold at his 2 events, that is not going to reflect well upon the NBA.
Like my headline says, world champions of what?
Good race though. I will say that is one of the most electric sports to watch. That is the best 9 seconds of sports you can watch.
Yeah, no doubt.
Absolutely.
Like I find the 200 meter is like cool, but the 100 meter for some reason it's just like the announcer goes bonkers for like 9 seconds and it's over.
Yeah.
But it's so sick. And I like how there's a lot of heat. So there's like multiple, like not one semifinal and then one final.
Yeah.
So at least there's like a couple moments of action.
Oh yeah.
I was rooting for the guy with the SpongeBob socks running in the semifinals. Did you guys see that?
I didn't.
There is a guy from Uganda, and they have like a yellow, whatever tracksuit, I guess it's called, and so he's wearing all yellow, these like pink shoes, and he had SpongeBob socks on. He like rolled them up for the camera. I was like, oh, this guy's got to make the final. He did make the final. I think he came in like 3rd or 4th. No, he didn't medal. I think he came like 4th or 5th in the final. But I was kind of hoping for a SpongeBob sock
Masterclass.
Yeah. I was kind of also hoping for DeGrasse to win the 200 meter final because that's like his race. That's what he won gold last Olympics, but silver it is, I guess.
Yep. Medal.
I'm happy for that Noah Lyles because I'm with him. It bugs me when you see sports teams say world champions. To me, world champions is like countries competing. Canada, USA. Unless it's like an individual sport like sprinting or something like that. But if it's like a franchise in a team sport, I don't get the world champions thing.
So the winner of USA versus World at NBA All-Star Weekend, they can call themselves world champion.
Sure.
It's true.
The world is world champions.
Yeah.
I think like an event that happens every year, like every American sport, it should 4 years is fair enough. Like the World Cup makes sense that you're the champions of the world. That's why they call when you win the Euros the champions of Europe. They don't call it of the world. And I think same with the Olympic team sports. You are the winners of like the world of basketball because it's your country. Anyways.
I think I'm on the fence here because I do agree with the fact that you're obviously not the world champions because it's only teams competing from North America most of the time is what he's talking about. The NBA, the MLB, NFL, whatever. But at the same time, if you are a professional athlete in any of those sports, the best athletes in that are going to be in the NBA or the NFL or the MLB. There is no league higher than those ones. So in the sense that it's the best athletes from all over the world in that sport, I think it makes sense that you're the world champions. But I do agree. I think it only really makes sense to call yourself the world champions when there's multiple countries competing in it. And in the case of the NBA, it just doesn't really make as much sense.
Well, and I find like the NBA is only in one part of the world. So it's like, are the Chinese league going to say the world champions? Yeah, I guess you could say, and you can argue that they're not the best.
That'd be hilarious.
That would be really funny.
If the
like they have an argument they call
Chinese
that
league.
too, just because they're in China and not in the U.S. Like I know that's how the hierarchy works, but I think the world makes sense because it's an actual country.
I think if a league does that, they should have to send their champions to beat whoever the North American league is. Like if the Chinese league says they're world champions, send them over to the NBA. So you got to compete for it. You got to earn the title.
Yeah. Oh, excuse me.
But for the Olympics, I know that I can't remember what his name is, but a guy from BC got the gold in hammer toss. I think it was either yesterday or today. I got to look up his name because I think he would have set the record. It was the second furthest throw in like a long time. And it would have won every Olympics going back to like forever. Why can't I find his name? I also watched the 10,000 meter. I was at a car dealership getting my car fixed, and that came on. It's the exact opposite of the 100, but man, does it get electric once you get down to that final lap.
Yeah, that's the thing I find. The farther it gets along, it's boring until the last stretch.
Which is how it is with everything.
But I also find, like, in the 4,000 meter or the 10,000 meter or whatever, there's a lot of guys that kind of lose their gas and they're going to lose. Whereas the 100-meter race, unless you pull your hamstring in like 4 steps, you're right there right till the end. Whereas there's usually they just like the odd like gap opens up more in the longer races.
Oh, yeah.
Whereas this is like the photo finish every time, basically. So that's why I like it a little more. But
It says,
yeah.
It says Cameron Rogers of Richmond, BC is the heavy favorite to win gold in the women's hammer throw on Tuesday.
I did find this, guys. It's Ethan Katzberg. I think he's also one of the youngest people to ever win gold in that event. I think he's 22. So that is, I mean, shout out to him. That's ridiculous. I believe he hit 84 meters, which is just an absurd distance to think about.
That's so that technique to be able to throw it and it not just hit the side netting beside you.
Oh, yeah.
I think that kind of boggles my mind with that one.
It doesn't make sense to me at all.
Same with the
shot put?
Shot put. Like how they throwing that boulder that far. But cool sports that you don't see ever until the Olympics.
Yep.
It's pretty cool.
Shout out to him. But yeah, I just wanted that. I was like, I was locked in on that 10,000 meter race, but it was because, like you said, there's so many times where guys get gassed and they don't they can't hang with like the main group, and that was the case. And you would see there was like I think 8 to 10 guys that were like keeping up with the same pace throughout the whole race, and they just kept lapping like everyone else. So it was kind of funny to watch because then there would be guys that finished like a minute ahead of everyone else. And the Canadian in that event finished 4th, I think, Mohamed. He had a close up until the very end, and then he just lost steam and couldn't keep it together. But yeah, I thought it was a pretty exciting event, all things considered. I was gonna say, you guys got anything else for the Olympics?
I don't.
Just shout out to Summer McIntosh.
Yeah, I was just about to say.
in Canada. 17 years old, 3 golds already is nuts.
Goated.
Yeah.
Speaking of lists, I go first if you want, because I have a bit of a segue for that shout out.
Okay.
Very true. So I guess should we say our list this week?
Yeah, sorry, we should say our list.
We should give a preface, or the people at home can guess.
Well, so since this is the season finale, we're doing top 5 sports moments that occurred during season 3. So it's not like discussions we had or nothing. It's like moments that happened during season 3 of their Armchair Athletes. I will say mine's a very Clayton list.
Okay.
Because it's favorite moments.
Jake Bobo.
Jake Bobo's birthday, number 1. Happy birthday.
We'll start off with Taylor, though. He wanted to go first.
So in number 5, I have Summer McIntosh. I think that is a really cool story. It was tough because I first of all forgot that we were doing this list, and there's so many sports moments every year, so I kind of use a little bit of recency in some of my picks. And the Olympics only happens once every 4 years, so I thought there's got to be an Olympic moment in here. And for someone that's 17 that had most of the medal share for gold for the entire country for the first while of the games, it's pretty insane. Swimming is very, very cool to watch too, I will say. It looks really tiring. So shout out to her. She's on my it's not a moment, but I'm gonna count it as a moment, I think.
I think that can.
Because it is like it's such a short period of time in a year. So I put her in there because she was like when I first thought about it, I was like, I gotta add her in there because that's just really cool. I tried to use some that I really enjoyed. They might not have been the best moments, but I think all of us kind of just picked like personal biases. Number 4, I have NC State's run in March Madness and big old DJ Burns.
Yep.
I usually pick a March Madness. Like if I'm thinking back to the year in sports, March Madness is always something I go to because I've said this multiple times. It's my favorite tournament to watch of any sport. So I always think, if there's not a huge upset, which there wasn't a huge upset this last year. I'm going to pick the Cinderella story, and it was NC State, so I will take that as my fourth pick. My third pick, I put Canada's FIBA bronze because Canada has been shockingly poor in basketball for a while. Like they never really had the commitment from the best of the best from Canada always. And we've finally got like a good group of guys. So we won bronze to go to the Olympics. Hopefully in a week's time or whatever, we'll be able to say that Canada potentially won gold. But I will say just Canada's FIBA. And I'm also going to add their soccer team in the same breath because we're talking about Canada. They obviously made the World Cup a couple years ago, and they just played in the Copa America, and they made it to the knockout stages and made it to the semifinals of the Copa America, which is a big deal. Obviously, a lot of people don't think it's as competitive as the Euros, but for a team that, almost went bankrupt 15 years ago and didn't have a team and were ranked like 300th in the world when Alphonso Davies popped on the scene, to be able to say that you made it to the semifinal and lost to the World Cup champions, I think is a huge moment for Canadian sports. Number two, I have the women's NCAA tournament as a whole. I think that Caitlin Clark and forgetting her name, the Barbie girl, what's her name again?
Paige Beckers?
No, Bayou. What? No, Bayou. What's her name? Angel Reese.
Bayou
Angel
Bar-
Reese?
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I was like,
That's what her name is.
blonde? Like, I don't know.
That's what her nickname is, right?
Yeah, Bayou Barbie.
Sure.
Yeah. That just whole matchup brought a lot of eyes. I honestly, the Final Four, like a Final Four, I think for that tournament was more exciting than the Final Four for the men's, which I don't think I had watched a minute of March Madness women's basketball really before that moment, maybe highlights. So that I think was really cool. And I'm excited to see next year with Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese going to the WNBA, how that's going to make, like, are they going to be able to maintain that for college basketball? Of course, Beckers is back again. But I'm kind of hoping that it as well, because I thought it was pretty interesting to watch. And number one for me, this might be on other people's lists, but I have the Edmonton Oilers comeback. Even though they lost, that was probably the most wild series I've ever seen in the NHL. They lost, but it's still probably the most, like, I think I'm not an Edmonton Oilers fan by any means, but I still was invested for that series, especially. And when they came back, I thought it was a really cool series. And that was my last biggest sporting moment in my viewing of sports over the past year-ish.
Nice.
Yeah.
I can go next. I took a little bit of a different approach for some
I
of
feel
my.
like I went really serious, and I probably should have made a couple more jokey ones, but that's okay.
No, it's good. I had a
I
mix.
think yours is good.
Yep. I'm gonna start off serious. Number 5, I had myself winning my work fantasy league.
As soon as you said starting off serious, I'm like,
Serious?
I hope it turns into a joke.
Yeah, that was a big one for me. If you know me, you know that I'm pretty down bad in a dynasty league right now, and it's been years of a rebuild, so it was good to win one. At number 4, it was Josh Dobbs's Linsanity run. That was fun football to watch. Winning games somehow without knowing the playbook, just kind of running around doing whatever he wanted to do. It was pretty cool. Number 3, I had All-Star Scotty Barnes. Nice to see some Toronto Raptors representation in the All-Star game. It's been years, it would have been Pascal the last time, right? Or Fred, I think, actually. Was it last year? 2 years ago?
It was.
I think it was Fred, and then before that it was Lowry and Pascal.
Yeah.
And then there was a Lowry Pascal Kawhi year.
Either way, it feels like years since we've had Pascal.
Well, this season felt like about 10 years, so maybe that's why it felt so long.
Yeah, especially like with such a poor season, it was nice to have Scotty being in the All-Star game. Gave Raptors fans a little bit of fun. At number 2, I had the ultimate gritty compilation of Mac Jones and Mike Gesicki after Mike Gesicki caught the game-winning touchdown against Buffalo. Elite. I hit the fattest gritty in my living room. Probably screamed and woke up my neighbors, but it had to happen. And at number 1, Copy and Taylor, but I had the women's NCAA tournament. Fun basketball to watch. I was much more invested in that than I was the men's, because there's drama, there's competition, there's fun, exciting basketball. Yeah, it had everything. It was very entertaining. Fun to watch.
I think I did this all wrong after you said yours.
I don't think so.
Yours is good, man.
I think yours is good.
Serious. I thought we were thinking like our actual like I wasn't thinking like a Mike Gesicki gritty. Yeah.
What's not serious about that? What do you mean?
I probably would have put George Pickens' catch against. I think that was Browns. I don't remember who that.
I think everyone will know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
If you're referring to one George Pickens
basically the best catch in Total Beckham, I'm gonna say.
Mm-hmm.
Might be a hot take.
I don't know if it is
catch in Total Beckham, but one-handed catch.
Yeah.
Not because just the actual catch itself.
The catch itself, yeah. I'll go next. I will say I had to make some adjustments on the fly because I was going to mention the Canada's Copa America run, and I was also going to mention Canada's FIBA run, just because, again, like you said, haven't had a lot of success in either of those sports as a country, so to now start to have that turnaround, it's big moments for us. So there's 2 kind of ad-libbed ones in here, and we'll see if one of them counts. I'll leave it up to the rest of the Armchair athletes to see if you guys approve of it or not. But starting off, there was a Thursday night game that we all watched together, Seahawks versus Giants. And the Seahawks just put a beat down on the Giants, and it was when the defense still looked like it could be good. And there I said Devin Witherspoon needs a pick 6 here, and he took it back to the house. So I was like, all right, that was a pretty good game. It was when I still had hope for that defense, and then it was all crushed so quickly after that. So it was a high point in the season for me. It was that game. At number 5.
That was a fun game. You know what, guys? It was even funner because you guys were there at my place watching the game.
That's what made it truly special.
And we
need to have more of
those.
those. We need to have more of those this year where we watch football games because those were fun and at Will's place too.
That's very true.
Anything is better than the Steelers versus Patriots game that we watched.
Oh, elite football right there.
That's okay.
That was in my honorable mentions.
That's okay.
At number 5, I guess I should also say these weren't really in any particular order. I maybe shouldn't have started that one because then the next one doesn't really make sense. But number 5, I have kind of the same vein, watching the entire 2024 NFL draft, but specifically getting to watch that Penix pick live and the reaction from everyone was so insane.
Because you guys were talking, and I think I was like listening into the TV, and did I not say to you guys they went with Penix?
I have it was just so shocking.
And then you guys were like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was nuts.
Because there was the run on quarterbacks, and then everyone was kind of like, I wonder what Atlanta's going to do. They had so many options, and then they went Penix after signing Cousins without telling Cousins that was going to be the plan. It was just like such an insane moment that no one really expected it. It was just really funny for all the discourse afterwards. And then at number 4, this is one of the ones that I had to ad-lib in here. The Brock Purdy performance against the Ravens where he threw 4 picks was like one of the greatest hate-watching experiences I think I've had in my entire life. All season, I had talked about how his MVP, like he wasn't bad, but he needed to be put in these MVP talks, and they kept increasing, going on, and then it was like, oh my God, he might actually win it. And then going up against the other guy that had the chance to win the MVP, Lamar, throws 4 picks. I was like, all right, we're safe. We're not going to have to withstand the Purdy MVP conversations. It was just like a huge weight off my shoulders, It was very relieving. And then at number 3, this is just the past couple weeks here. I got Vladimir Guerrero Jr. remembering that he can, in fact, hit a baseball. He's made the Blue Jays fun to watch again. I have tuned in. I know that's pretty crazy. I maybe should have said that during the MLB segment, but I have watched some of these Blue Jays games. And it's pretty much only because of him. And then also because obviously they blew it up and I had a reason to tune back in. But he's been incredible for the past couple of weeks. One of the best offensive players in all of baseball. So shout out to Vlad. At number 2, Clayton, I assume this is probably going to make your list. I have the Drew Lock come back against the Eagles, and then the game winner to JSN in the corner. That whole game was hilarious. We just continued to own the Eagles. I don't know what it is with the Pete Carroll-led Seahawks and the Philadelphia Eagles, but they just can't lose. Can't lose to that team in Philly. So we have 2.
Wait, how
Oh, hello, Clayton.
Oh my God. Where'd the other one go?
What?
Yeah, so my internet had cut out. Tara, what I missed from your list? When I had left, you had talked about the Brock Purdy disaster class from Christmas.
On our end, Clayton, you had never left.
Real,
You were still in
I was still like my picture was there and everything.
Yeah, 2 Claytons were
we
on
had
the
2 Claytons for a
screen. It was
minute there.
different angle.
That's
It was crazy, man.
We got Clayton and then Clayton's evil twin.
Yeah.
Um,
I loved watching Jake Bobo fail.
Golden Knights. Mitch Marner's my favorite player.
Fuck Jack Eichel.
Jack Eichel stinks.
Oh man.
But what did you miss? Just talking about Vlad and his turnaround and how good he's been the past few weeks, and how he's made Blue Jays baseball enjoyable again. And then, and I said I assume this is going to be in your list. I have the Drew Lock comeback against the Eagles, the game winner to JSN, just everything about it. Watching Bradbury get owned, yeah,
Allow me to explain why it's not on my list.
it's not.
Because I didn't watch it live.
Okay.
So I was at a Panthers and Flames game that night, and we got free tickets from my mom's work, and they were awesome tickets. It was a great game too. So while I was a little sad that why'd it have to be on that same day as my thing? Like I wish I could have enjoyed. Like I enjoyed the Panthers game too, especially because then they went on to win the cup. I think that's cool. But also then, I wish it was on a Sunday though too, so I could experience both.
It was such a good moment. The Drew Lock led comeback. I don't know if anyone was really expecting that, but the Seahawks have owned the Eagles for a while, and that continued in that game. And it was just watching James Bradbury get cooked all the way down the field was really funny. And then to cap it off with the JSN game winner after the kind of rough start of the season that he had, it was just really, really enjoyable. And then this is the last one. So I've said 6 or I said 5 so far, but I want to know if this one even counts because I wrote it down, but I just wasn't sure. It doesn't really fit the criteria, I don't think. But I just have the interview with Jay Jackson as a moment for the Armchair athletes. It's not really a sports moment, but it was a very cool moment for me. I really enjoyed it. It was a ton of fun. That was kind of like something I wanted to, like just the idea of interviewing an MLB player seems kind of far fetched in and of itself. But we got to do it, and it was great. So that was my number 1, if that counts.
Yeah,
That
I
was a
will.
moment.
That's
Okay.
huge.
Sports. It's a sports. He's a sports
That's what
person.
I'm saying.
So yeah, I think it's good.
Yeah, it was very cool for me too, Terrell.
Yeah.
Jay was a great dude, and like you said, it's cool to interview an MLB player because we hadn't done that before on the show, and like it was just really cool. He was really easy to deal with, had great insight too. I don't think it could have gone any better than it did. Maybe I guess
No.
my phone not overheating, but That was whatever.
In terms of the interview itself, I don't think it could have gone any better.
Yeah, absolutely.
He was, yeah, it was just super insightful, super conversational. Didn't just feel like he was kind of giving off like pre-written answers or anything. Yeah, it was just fantastic. So that would be my number one on the list.
I guess I'll do my list then. Leading it off at number 5, Jake Bobo's one-handed touchdown catch against the Arizona Cardinals. That was so, and it's not. You could replace that player with, I don't know, DJ Dallas, and I still think it would be absolutely insane. But like me and Terrell were on the Bobo hype train leading up to that, and I think that was when it really took off. And the cool part about that too was that if you remember, Terrell, how it went, he made the catch right on the sideline.
Yeah.
They cut to commercial. They're like, oh, yeah, it's incomplete. They cut to commercial. They come back, and they're like, actually, it was a touchdown grab.
Touchdown. I was going to say, it didn't count at first. They reviewed it, and then they came back, and it was a touchdown. It was, that was just an insane catch.
That was incredible. At number 4, I've got Luka Doncic's, well, I guess this is tied in a couple of things here, but the Dallas Mavericks defeating the Timberwolves in the Western Conference Final, but specifically in Game 2, Luka Doncic's game winner over Rudy Gobert. I watched that live. It was absolutely crazy. And the best part of it, too, was Luka's trash talk after. Now, I felt bad for Rudy Gobert a little bit because he's already, I think, one of the most hated players in the NBA. At least I'm a casual here, but at least from what I see. And he just got absolutely dumped on after that.
I was going to say, isn't that where we started talking about how someone has to stand up for Rudy Gobert, but it wasn't going to be any of us?
Yeah.
Can't be called Defensive Player of the Year and not know how to guard on the perimeter, is my opinion. But
fair point.
We can start a whole discussion about that, but we'll get through the list first.
That was just a very exciting game. Dallas made a bit of a comeback there on that final minute to ultimately win the game, so it was awesome to watch. At 3, I've got the Stanley Cup final. It was on Taylor's list as well. Absolutely incredible series. I was happy that the Panthers won, but I remember going into it. Now, I'm not the biggest Oilers fan, but I remember thinking, like, if they win, like, at least they're doing it in incredible fashion. Because, like, a reverse sweep in the final hasn't been done since the 40s, which, who cares, ancient times. So I think to see that today was really cool. And then, just incredible series. And Game 7 was even determined by 1 goal as well, which I thought was cool. Now, at number 2, this is a biased pick. I've got the Vegas Golden Knights raising their Stanley Cup banner. What a beautiful banner that is. And they did it out of a slot machine, too. Now, to me, that was like the final touch on the championship from the season before. That was kind of like their season 3 finale, I guess you could maybe say. But yeah, no, that was it was cool to watch. They won that game too, which made it even better. And then number 1, I was there for this. Cody Rhodes finishing the story at WrestleMania 40. That pay-per-view as a whole was absolutely incredible. And I got to be there live. Now, that main event, I think I've talked about it here on this show. In my opinion, and this is a few months later, so I've still fresh, but like it's still enough time away where I think I can safely say I think it's the best match in WrestleMania history. I'll put that up against any, and like the crowd erupting, specifically me erupting when Undertaker's bell hit during that match, and then when the ref hit 3 for Cody Rhodes winning the match, the crowd erupting and me erupting. Absolutely incredible to be there for. And walking out as well, the atmosphere was insane after he had won. It was absolutely unreal experience. Something that I'll never forget, even when I'm 78 years old and have dementia. I'll still remember. I'll
The
still
one
be going,
thing.
whoa, to Cody Rhodes' theme
Cody
song.
Rhodes.
Story.
Won't know your,
Finish the story.
you won't know your name, but you'll know Cody Rhodes' name.
Yeah.
Huge.
The honorable mentions. This is usually my favorite part of the list. So, go ahead. Any of you guys have on? I guess the JSN thing was an honorable mention for me, but like I said, I didn't watch it live. So,
I had the Knicks versus Pacers series in the NBA playoffs. It was electric, start to finish, and then I had possible medal finish for Canada for basketball this year. Knock on wood, obviously.
No, don't say anything. You ruined it all. The Armchair Athletes curse will strike again.
Oh, I didn't even think of that actually.
Canada won't medal. They won't win. It's
Looking forward
impossible.
for them to lose.
I was gonna
Evil
say,
Will joins the call.
Yeah.
I was gonna say as well, like for the Olympics side of things, like Canada, like it's, don't get me, Summer McIntosh, that whole thing's incredible, but Canada usually like gets a medal in the pool, or at least they have the last couple Olympics. I'm not studied up on my Olympic history, so if I'm wrong, don't get mad at me. But I like seeing when Canada wins events that like aren't common or aren't something that you'd think of. So I think they got. Did they not get a judo gold medal as well?
I think there was. I don't know if it was gold, but I know they medaled in judo. I think actually you're right. I think it was gold. But yeah,
So, like, those kinds of things, the hammer toss as well. I think that's really cool. So like those kinds, like the obscure events that you don't really think of, like I think that's awesome.
yeah. I didn't really have any honorable mentions because I already had 6, obviously. So the one I'll throw out there at the end is the Blue Jays blowing up a lot of the pieces at the trade deadline and sending out a bunch of guys. It just there was a hole in my heart, and it was filled with new prospects for the Blue Jays organization. So made it watchable again. We're getting like torrential downpour out here in
I just
Calgary,
had to
Alberta right now.
No, because my bed is now soaked because the rain was coming through my window.
I'm not getting any rain out in Carsland here yet.
This is like a hurricane right here.
Oh yeah,
It's
We're
looking
getting-
like it's about to be a storm, but not yet.
it's supposed to be like hail and whatnot. But I looked out. I wasn't paying attention. I looked out my window, and there's just a constant stream of water from the roof. So
Yeah.
I will say one that I really enjoyed that just popped in my head. Anthony Edwards' dunk this year against
Utah over John Collins.
Yeah, that was nuts.
Like the broken finger one. That was
Yeah, that was crazy.
that was a nasty in-game dunk. Was it better than his over Utah? Potentially.
Yes, because it wasn't over Utah.
Yeah,
Respect my glorious king.
there were no Raptors in the video.
No Raptors involved.
That's true. And it is, I think, a little bit more impressive doing it over John Collins.
John Collins.
More of a
Yeah.
shot blocker.
Well,
Yeah. But that was
and he injured himself and John Collins in the same dunk.
Didn't John Collins get a concussion?
He got concussed from that. Yeah,
That's crazy.
got dunked on so hard his brain hurt.
Yeah,
I will also say Peyton Pritchard half-court shots in the NBA Finals were pretty good.
yeah, that was fun.
Yeah. But that's about it for me.
Jason
I was gonna
Tatum
say,
final celebration.
Copying everybody.
I was gonna
Pre-recorded
say
animations.
the Super Bowl was entertaining, not
Yeah.
only because we were at Will's, who was a great host, but also
And Jana.
and
Yes.
Very
Jana.
true.
She doesn't want to be on.
Shout out to Jana.
But I was also going to say because the 49ers lost.
Well-
Unfortunately, though, it also meant that the Chiefs won the Super Bowl. So it was like,
I was gonna say the Super Bowl, and then I toned it down to the Brock Purdy one because I was like I didn't want to be happy because the 49ers lost, because having 49ers fans in the room really toned down the happiness of that moment, I will say.
It was Jana. Jana doesn't want to be on camera, but she has a very aggressive reaction to this. I will say.
I'm saying I was being empathetic and toning it down. I could have been like, hey, the 49ers lost in the Super Bowl. And that was a positive, but I didn't. I kept it to myself.
Holy cow, it's going even harder here now. I might have to call it. I gotta shift around my car.
Or yeah, don't get it hailed on.
Is it hailing it at your place?
It's
It
not. I
is
feel like it's
hard.
gonna.
It's
I was
not
getting the
hailing, but
emergency
it's
alert.
raining hard.
I know I got an emergency alert too, but it isn't hailing here yet. I have nowhere to put my car to be safe, so
Yeah.
guess
Go
we'll
lay
find
on it.
Armchair
Right over
weatherman.
top of this.
Armchair weather report. That's what we gotta start doing.
Yeah.
True.
It's raining.
Thank you.
What?
Yeah.
I guess I don't really have anything else to say other than tune back in for season 4. I think we'll be live in the studio for that. Or yeah, we will be
For the debut.
in the fall, in September, probably the first or second week. Taking about a month off when it comes to the pod, but we'll still be posted online. So follow us on the socials. Instagram at the Armchair Athletes, TikTok at Armchair Athletes, Chair X Chair Athletes, and then YouTube at the Armchair Athletes. 196. That's the amount of great moments from this season of the Armchair Athletes. So
Absolutely.
I will say I am pumped to be back in studio
Absolutely.
because online, like these video calls are still fun, but it's not the same as being
It's
in
not
studio.
quite the same.
No.
Yeah.
Right.
no, because then we lose Truman, or my evil twin pops up on the screen.
Yeah.
Starts
I
spewing
couldn't
out
open my camera
Jack Eichel and Jake Bobo.
That doesn't help either.
Yeah.
It's way harder to get the puns in when it's not live. You got to sit there and be like, hold your finger up and be like, I have something to say.
Yeah. Exactly.
Wait one moment.
Yeah.
Holy Jesus. All right. Well, we got the wrath of God outside raining from the heavens.
Yeah, so if we don't make it through this hurricane, maybe see you never again, but hopefully we'll see you through season 4.
Lost episode of the Armchair Athletes.
Yeah.
Didn't we already have one of those?
That was the volleyball interview, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's lost media. Unfortunate.
But yes.
Well,
thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Thanks for a great
thank you,
season.
folks.
Yes.
And whoever it was at Street Wheelers, DM us.
Yeah.
That's
Now, we'll get you a shirt and some stickers.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, folks.
Yeah.